Hi all, welcome to my channel. I'm Ray,
Hi
and,
guys.
and this is Anya. How do you say it? How do you say it in Australian?
In English, we
I'm
say
not Australian, British. I get the accents mixed up. British.
I can't do an Australian accent, so I'm not even going to attempt it because my Australian accent is really bad. I'm full on Yorkshire from the UK, but no, we say it like Anya, but honey and all like they all say like Anya, and they say it funny. So I've just learned to take different pronunciations as they come.
I usually say Anya, but I can say, how'd you say it again?
Whatever
Anya?
naturally off the tongue to you, sweetie, that works for me.
Anya. Anya. I'll probably say Anya or Anya, and I might go between.
It's not like
Well,
the same word.
Well, if you've never been to my channel before, we're here to have a spiritually conscious conversation. We're going to discuss just current life updates, timeline updates, what's going on, and how are we handling it, any insights we have. Yeah, so
Exciting.
I just wanted to list a couple of the topics we might be talking about in case anyone wants to just kind of get a feel for if they're going to be interested. So we're going to be talking about like taking a step away from people and like media so we can get more of a clear channel, like basically not being biased in our channeling. We're going to talk about that. Talk about the effect of the energy on all of our animal friends. We're going to talk about some energy work that Anya did to reconnect aspects of ourselves energetically, like in the quantum. She's going to talk about that, and probably if anyone wants to do it for themselves, they'll be able to. Let's see. Oh, and another thing we want to talk about is contracts, allowing ourselves to go back and change contracts that we've made, even if that means maybe letting other people down. Yeah. Boop. Yeah.
I think that's some fire topics for today.
Yeah, it's a fiery day. I woke up feeling fiery today. Not yesterday, not so much. Today, yes, I feel the fire.
Channeling the fire.
What's today's date? The 7th, so June 7th. So yeah, June 6th was less of a fire day, and June 7th is more of a fire day. I wonder why. Numerology, that would be 6, 7, 2023, 13. 7. So today is a 2. Interesting. Today's actually an 11. It's an 11, which breaks down to a 2. That's why the fiery, because 2 is feminine, and 2 is the number of the divine feminine. It's the number of duality, contrast, and probably why I felt like wearing black today, get that contrast going. Because I was going to wear bright colors and I was like, no. And yeah, black is what I landed on. But anywho, 11 is the energy of wounded healer, but so many of the 11s have actually ascended into our healing abilities. But we still have a little bit of triggers, things that are triggering us, right? And so right now it feels like a lot of the healers are being triggered.
Yeah, I call it like the onion. It's like we're hitting the deeper layers of the onion, which make you cry usually. And it's kind of like the more sensitive bits and then bits that are more raw, and also like the cellular memory too.
Yeah, for sure. Cellular memory. Yeah, speaking of the cellular memory, why don't you go talk about the what you did in the Akashic with connecting those aspects?
Yeah, so we do like we have a little group. Obviously, I do healing, reading, subconscious work, channeling, Akashic work, all that kind of thing. I always struggle to have a label for what I do. It's kind of like I say multidimensional light worker kind of covers it, because that's like all the things.
Yeah, you're an interdimensional healer? I don't know, interdimensional something.
That's cool. And it's just like different versions of that, because I love being a reader as well, a healer, a channeler, all the different things. So on us Tuesday night group, it's more for like development of other people's abilities, of the individual's abilities, and just channeling usually on the day or on the night what we're going to do. And yesterday it came through that we needed to integrate the fractals on a conscious level. So this work will be done subconsciously. So we don't have to do this. This is just kind of a process we can make in terms of like speeding that up, being aware of certain integrations, creating more room for expansion and integration into the human self. So if we are, the way I did it was in the Akashic realm through a guided journey with my group. But the ways in which you could do that yourself is to just set that intention consciously to ask for the fractals of your oversoul, of your highest self, to be brought into the one in the highest good of yourself. So obviously only if it's in the highest good. And I see it almost like balloon strings, like pulling in all the balloon strings and then tying them with a little ribbon. And obviously the highest self will only allow things to come forward that are in alignment to come forward for your highest good at that time. So it won't destruct any lessons or any, integrations that are going to take place. It won't interrupt that. I think it'll be more just additionally to that. But yeah, it was quite a powerful session that we did, but we combined it with releasing, which was so funny you said about the contracts, because we did that but with the past lives. So instead of it being like current contracts, which is going on now, it was more past life contracts that we'd created with people, or contracts that we'd created with people's higher self before coming down to earth, that are no longer compatible in the earth realm because they're at different levels, because they took different choices, they're at different points of self-awareness or healing. So that lesson or experience can be lifetime. So we have to kind of separate and release any contracts, even of physical pain and experiences and lessons that we are reliving and repeating. These old contracts and outdated contracts, it's kind of now time to set the conscious intention to release them from our auric field.
Yeah, beautiful. It is time. It is time. And we did have a few days ago, today's the 7th, probably on like between the 1st and the 3rd of the month, we had a timeline shift. Between the 1st and the 3rd, we had probably on the 3rd-ish, we had a timeline shift, a big one.
The 4th, but I just felt it just after.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the exact date. I'd have to go back and look at my TikTok, because I made a TikTok that day and was like, whoa, things shifted. And a lot of people are actually commenting that they have found changes in their birth chart. That's how big this timeline shift is. People's rising signs are changing. They're no, you don't touch those cords. Hey, puppy. No.
Have a little baby fairy. It's like having little human babies.
It is. It really is. But there's 3 of them, and they're tiny and fast.
Wild around the house, so they're not even like just sat in a bouncer or chilling. They're just like running carnage around the house.
Oh, yeah. And if they go potty every 5 minutes, they're like squat pee, squat pee. I'm like, no.
They do,
but they're just
get the video done, because I've got 3, but mine are older, and they still have the odd little barky bark every now and then when I'm recording. But you've done well with all of them animals, keeping them quiet.
They're all playing right there. Right there, they're actually being very quiet. I'm impressed. They don't bark too much unless they're mad about something. I was writing down some words that were coming to me about what you do in the quantum world. And the one, word interdimensional, activator, welder. I got welder, like you're like welding.
Yeah, I find little parts and pieces that I studied criminology and law for a couple of years in the human world, and my brain is so focused on like making things make sense and like processing it together and pulling pieces together. And I studied like detective and criminal investigation, and I would have been fantastic at that, because it's like if it doesn't make sense, it's like I need to figure out why it doesn't make sense and put them pieces in. So when it comes to like the spiritual quantum world, I ask a lot of questions, and I kind of try and find different pieces to pull parts together and make it make sense in my perspective. And so I really like that welder, because it's like finding the pieces and blending them together in my own personal interpretation. So I do like that.
Yeah. And then architect, that feels more.
Yeah.
And then weaver.
I like that one.
Yeah, weaver. Yeah. So when it comes to changing contracts, hold on. One of the puppies, hold on. That is mine. You don't touch
You
this.
have to take them little names.
It is not a touching lady. No, you don't touch that. She's like pulling on the tassels of this pillow, like trying to like.
We spoke too soon.
One of the tassels already came off because of those little puppers.
We spoke too soon. The higher self was like, mischief.
We're just gonna throw that in there. We got it. We can't take things too seriously, you know. It's like life has interruptions. Just go with it. It is what it is.
Exactly. It's real life.
So check your birth chart. If you haven't checked your birth chart in a while, check your birth chart. See if everything is the same as it was before. Some of your houses may have changed. Some of the degrees of your things may have changed. Gotten a lot of reports of people's information changing. If you want to get a report that actually has your past lives, so there's a different kind of astrology birth chart that you can get that's more extensive, that goes farther out into the Milky Way to show energetic alignments you have with different points in our galaxy, which could be in all sorts of cool places and connect you with all sorts of different ETs. And you can really see a blueprint of where your soul has been. It's just very cool. So Crystal Alexis, she does that work. She taught herself. She discovered this work before anyone taught her about it. So she's just an amazing, I always talk about it, like her and what she does, because I didn't know that you could have a birth chart that could show your past lives. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I don't know too much about birth charts. Like, I understand I have a friend who read my rising sign once and, explained some of that to me. But I've never gone deep into that, to be fair. It does fascinate me. Obviously not enough to do it as my own interpretation, but it really does fascinate me how we have, like, we can get to the same information, same messages, same like you say, past lives, and understanding of why, like, the different personality traits and the traumas that we've been through and all these different things that are showing in, like, the birth charts and things that obviously I can do in a different way in translation. But it's like, this is so magical how we all translate in different ways, and I find it really interesting.
I do too. It's incredible that, like, science and astrology and spirituality, we can all, like you said, get the same information from different ways, different channels, different tools. And it is really, really cool when you the individual, you have certain knowings about yourself, certain theories, let's just say, and you're like, pretty sure I'm a really old soul. I'm pretty sure I'm connected to the Arcturians. I'm pretty sure I'm connected. And you just have these feelings of what you feel, what you think, sometimes it's just what you just know it. And then when you get the chart after you have the knowings, and then you see physical, tangible proof to back up the things that you already knew, it gives you a lot of it's a confidence booster. It really is. It really, really is. So this goes to talk about how we want to have we want to make sure that we want to have a clear channel. I need to drink some water. The puppies around the kitchen.
Yeah, it is important to have, like, that clear focus. And like you was just saying, there's a difference between thinking things and kind of absorbing things from his environment, and then having a knowing of what we know in our soul to be true, what we believe as our version of truth and our perspective of truth. And sometimes it is really hard to do that if you are relying and, like, depending on, like, forms of media to gain that confirmation and guidance in terms of what you believe as your core values of truth.
Hold on, I'm going to pause the recording. So it's important, like Anya was just saying, we just had a little interruption, but we're back now. It's important to take breaks from listening to the opinions of others, really, and to take breaks from acquiring information, ingesting information, right? Think about like what we read, what we listen to, what we watch, like all of that is data, it's information, and it's going into our psyche, into our auric field, right? The data has to go somewhere. And so think about like it's kind of like a fun experiment, really, to kind of step back from all of it and then just see what comes through for you. That's what I love doing that. And I think me and Anya were just talking about that we were both kind of on a similar, not a fast, but just kind of like a break.
Like a detox.
A detox. Yeah, totally. Just getting more centered, in tune with our own direct connection to source. And everyone has that. Everyone has a direct connection to source.
Yeah, well, we're all connected from source. We're all beings of source. We literally all origin from that. So there is no way. I always say that when I'm teaching people, like, it's not about establishing a connection with source. It's about attuning and amplifying your already existing connection and finding the way that translates with you, because that's the thing. We can get sucked up into, there is some fantastic people out there bringing some fantastic messages and fantastic translations, but at the end of the day, like, that's their interpretation and that's their version of translating that message, which is absolutely beautiful and so necessary to be shared for so many people that need it. But it's also really important that we find like our interpretation and our meanings of things, so that we know for a fact that when we watch something or we absorb something, that we can say, oh yeah, that really resonates with what I think and what I feel, or actually no, that's not in alignment to how I perceive that to be, and maybe I should question that, or maybe I know that I just perceive it in a different way. Like the timeline shift, I felt that in an energetic way. So I'm very much an energy worker, a grid worker. I do a lot of energy work out and about, and I was walking and I felt a total, almost like a wobble. It was like the whole world just wobbled for a minute and I felt really unstable. And obviously I'm pregnant now, and it was more, I was channeling in with that soul and spirit, and it was like this unsteadiness within me, and I was asking why, and it was more the around surroundings, and it was a timeline shift. So we can get information in so many various different ways and like different forms of how we channel in. And it's just about trusting that we are connected and we have a own channel, as well as knowing that, like, just as much as everyone else that's sharing theirs on a public forum, our channel is just as valid, even if we're not sharing it in a public way.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's channel is valid because, like you said, everyone's connected to source, because we are all from source. Mm-hmm. That's why, we are all one. Like, it really is true. Yeah. Like I said a minute ago, I find it fun. I find it fun to test myself, kind of. And when you said you felt the shift the other day, I haven't been watching anyone's stuff. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really on TikTok or anything watching. I would go onto TikTok to post now and again, but I wouldn't really watch anything when I was on there. So the other day, when I felt a shift, and then like a day or two later, I felt a big one, but there was like a smaller couple. There was a couple in a row. It was like a sequence of shifts. And then the day I posted that TikTok was, I think, the day after the shift. And I was like, yo, yesterday was the shift. Did y'all feel that? Because I knew for sure that it was, because I hadn't seen anyone else post about it.
Yep.
I hadn't.
It's a beautiful thing. Like, it's nice when people post and then, like, say I felt that, and then someone posts in a group chat, or did you see the Schumann resonance or whatever it's called, like, it was off the scale, because then that's like confirmation for what you're feeling. But it's really nice to like go within and ask in them moments of uncertainty and like, oh, what's that, to then get what channels coming into us and get our interpretation of that, because that's how we expand that connection to source.
Yeah. And then that's how you learn to trust your own knowing, to trust your own intuition. When you put yourself out there like that and say something, it's like speaking, and I could have just held it in, and then I would have seen someone else post about it, and I would have been like, man, I felt that. I should have said something. Yeah. Yeah, so I just decided to post it, and sure enough, like quite a few people were like, yeah, I felt it too, I felt it too. And then that's when people started noticing the changes in their birth chart after that timeline shift. And I actually, Crystal, the galactic astrologer, she is the one that pointed it out to me. She's the one who said, hey, I found these changes in your chart, because she does the past life chart, and so she could see I had new parallel lives show up, as in this soul now controls more lives in other places in
Like
this same timeline.
more fractals that are coming in, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like bringing in the fractals into the one. So that's also quite interesting with the message I got on the fractal integration. So you see, everyone's getting the same message, just in their own interpretation and their own translation. So it's about figuring, it's like we all come from different countries with different accents and different languages, and we all translate different words differently, and how we communicate. It's the same thing, just learning how we communicate with source or our higher self to understand how we translate their messages.
Yeah. Like you said, everyone has their own language.
Yeah. What is ours? Because when we try and understand French or Japanese, when we're working with like Spanish or English, it's like you're trying to understand something and translate it in that way, when actually your translation is over here. So you need to kind of listen inside rather than looking externally.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right now is all about looking internally. It's just all about looking internally, trusting yourself, going with what you know, not being worried about like letting other people down. And that's another thing about the whole contracts, past life contracts you mentioned clearing. It's important because right now, when we're inheriting new aspects of ourselves, those are technically, some of them are past life aspects.
Yeah.
So there could be some baggage coming along, or some weirdness coming along with the energy. So it's not all like hunky-dory, like, oh, it's all perfect. We still have to like excuse me, be aware, self-aware of what's going on with us, and take note of changes, and like do what's necessary to resolve them. So how did you do the past life clearing? How did you do that?
The ways I would, so for each session, say if it's a one-to-one, it would be like channeled in differently per session. So because this was a group session and I wanted to do like multiple aspects at once, it was like more aligned to me to take everyone on a guided journey to the Akashic realm, and then work with well, the way I see the Akashic realm is like a forest. So it's like a forest of illumination trees. Each tree is the like Akashic tree of different individuals. And that has like all your branches of all your fractals, and your, you know, it's connecting to your oversoul and source. So that's the way I perceive it. I obviously said, you see it in whatever way you see it, but this is what we're going to like guide on, and some seeing it differently, some seeing it the same. And then the way I led them was with a mirror inside the tree, which would bring forth any, you know, past life energy that was stuck. So it was like any trauma, any baggage that was stuck through that portal. But the portal is created with the divine alignment of the highest good in the heart-centered energy. So it's a lot of energy work that goes into obviously setting the space to make sure that there's not any interdimensional energy that's of a lower vibrational frequency. And yeah, then it was just a case of using different energy techniques to clear out any of the emotional, physical energy with the higher self and with soul, and then to kind of release any contracts that had been made, build them up, and then use a technique to either like burn or disconnect them from, like cut them in half from this current lifetime and any other contracts that we've made. And I had a lady that when I was guiding them through it, I said light it with the blue flame, and just before that she went, well, I'd already macheted them in half. And I thought, oh, that was funny, because she'd already cut them in half, which was great because it was showing she was already connecting in with what needed to happen, which was disconnecting that contract. And then she lit them with the blue flame back to source. So it was a really kind of powerful meditation that we did, guided session through the subconscious mind. But it was more about, in my way as well, understanding the kind of work that needs to be done with the collective, which is removing any of that. Like you say, we can take the gifts, the experiences, the memories, the kind of skills that we've acquired in these multidimensional lives, parallel lives, past lives, and we can bring that forth into this life. But what we want to make clear is that we don't want to bring forth any karma, emotional baggage, trauma, or contracts from them lifetimes and energy from them lifetimes that are not in our highest heart interest in this lifetime, you know.
Right.
And one thing that was interesting was the past lives we could see clearly in the mirror, but some people said that their parallel lives and multiple dimensional lives, their faces were blurred. And I've heard that before as well in other sessions that I've done. So I find that quite interesting. And I think it's due to maybe like also showing the difference between past lives and parallel, but also like not being able to consciously process the full awareness of what that person may be, or that energy. I don't know. It's a weird one. I found that quite interesting though.
I mean, that resonates for me. I have many parallel lives and I don't recognize myself a lot of the time. Even in the 3D right now, let alone in a meditation. I've never been able to like see my true form because my higher self always tells me I don't have a true form. My true form is essence.
Interesting.
True form is just essence. So and then I've asked my higher self, well, what's my favorite? And they're like, well, you have a handful of favorites. I'm like, okay, let's narrow it down. Like, because I think we're all curious and trying to get to know ourselves. Like, who are we? Like, what do I like?
Yeah.
And so I have asked my higher self to show me, but they've always told me, they're like, there is no exact image that's gonna
represent you.
Yeah, because it's only part of you no matter what. The 3D separate,
well, it's like if you asked me what my favorite outfit was, I'd be like, listen, I've got a few. It depends on what I'm feeling that day. I've got a whole handful to represent different moods. And that's the same thing. Like which shell we choose depends on like which frequency and vibration and what experience we want to gain from that shell's experience.
From that life, from that particular environment, right? We choose a different shell based on the environment we're going to be in and the dynamics that we're going to be experiencing. So yeah, the vessel we have in this life is a very accurate reflection of like our higher self and what our higher self wants to experience in this life, but only in this life. Like we have to just remember that we have so many other expressions of self in other lives that look so different than what this body looks like. But accepting and loving them all is important because they're all an aspect of you.
Yes. And there's all different like parts of us and like different ones that chose different timelines and different experiences and more shadow and more light, and in not every lifetime can we be this savior like martyr light worker. Like I just don't think it's realistic in terms of we can still be the light worker, but we also came here to learn and to teach and to go through that roller coaster of emotions. And I do feel, in my personal opinion, in my other lifetimes that I experience at the same time, there's somewhere I'm not consciously connected and I'm not like aware as I am in this lifetime, and that's why I go over from this lifetime to that one to do work, because that version of me is just not with it yet, and that's fine. But you can see that there is so many different versions of us that are in totally different places of where we are.
Yeah. And you can, it's funny because we were talking before, like, well, who are we talking to with this chat? Who do we want to attract, or
what's this like target people? Yeah.
And I want my channel to be a place of growth and expansion for those who are on a spiritual path, but especially for the quantum architects, the healers, the grid workers, the timeline workers, those that are working for the collective, those that are here to serve the collective. Those beings is really who I want this to be, like a safe space, a refuge, a place of inspiration, of encouragement, of, we are all here in this together. Yeah.
I agree. And I think it's really needed right now, because there's been a whole load of insecurities and anxieties and triggers and tests, if you want to call them that, or pressures from the universe that have been put on. And I found it challenging. I found it lonely and difficult, and like, you know, what's the word? It's like been really drawn out, and it's almost like we've been in this limbo phase, this waiting room phase, like before the expansion, before this, because we all know something big is coming. We all feel this sense of something more waiting to come in and expand. But it's like the in between to that, and the shedding period in between that, where we have to release the lower frequencies that are within us that are blocking that from expanding and blocking us from reaching our true potential. That shit's rough. Excuse my friend. It's not easy, and it's healing's not a pleasant journey all of the time, and it's not what Instagram and TikTok makes it out to be, in terms of this like quick, easy connection back to self. Like, it involves a whole roller coaster of pain and acknowledgement and embracing his own shadow and looking in the mirror, and nights where you are crying on the floor, and then days where you're loving life floating on a cloud. There's the whole expansion, and that's what it means to be human, and that's what it means to be healing. And I think in this moment we are feeling that as a collective in an amplified way, and a lot of us are transmuting energy for the collective. So if you don't know what that means, I perceive that as almost like siphoning someone's pain and emotional trauma, or like a collective emotion, so that the collective can more ascend in a faster pace, rather than carrying such lower vibrational energies. If you're able to transmute that, I do feel a lot of us have signed contracts that we are doing that as well. So we're feeling our own, but then that's amplified by the collective energy that's being transmuted as well. And I think it is intense, and we do need to know, people need to know that they're not on their own, and that there is a whole load of people that are awake and connected and in tune, but are also struggling, because there's a lot of ego that appears to be that once you hit a certain place that you just healed and you don't experience any struggles anymore. But it's not true. Like, we go through this healing journey and we still experience the troubles and the trauma. We just understand how to deal and respond with that a little bit more centered to the heart and centered to source, and with more kind of perspective, rather than such a closed in small pain perspective.
Absolutely. It's not always fun. It's definitely, and it's not a quick process.
Yeah.
I mentioned that in my little TikTok video I made before this. I said, some of us have been on this healing journey for a long time. And like you said, it doesn't mean that there's not still healing to be done. It's just you start to feel more prepared. You start to feel more equipped to do it.
More able to do it.
And we have come through a few months of intense shedding. Yeah. And it's been intense, and it's been really uncomfortable, and it's been really in the nitty gritty. It's been a lot of tears. And I know that has been a collective experience. One thing I do know is that there's a certain segment of us that have shifted. Now, the large majority of the collective is still experiencing this nasty purge.
Like dark night of the soul.
Yeah. But there's a group of us, the healers, the seers, the grid workers. There's a whole group of us. It happens in waves, right? Evolution, ascension happens in waves. And there's a group of us that are ready to shake it off.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, that was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Let's get back into party mode, because life is actually pretty fun. And I feel like it's gotten lighter, right? Yeah. It's gotten a little bit lighter. So it's funny because that segues perfectly into a new workshop that we have this Saturday, which in just in a couple days, Saturday morning. So it's a workshop focused on self-empowerment through play. We wanted to help people shift out of this drudgery. We know that it's been hard. I've been dealing with it. All of us, there's 3 instructors, and we all 3 have been dealing with our own stuff, and so we made a workshop that's just really fun and lighthearted, but also powerful. It's going to be very powerful, identifying triggers, releasing trauma, releasing shame, but using dance, using singing, using, yeah. So it's going to be
That
fun.
sounds so activating. Who are you running that with?
It's going to be Crystal Alexis, who I talked about, that does the past life astrology, and then Wit, who is she's like a self-empowerment entrepreneurial coach.
Beautiful.
She helps people start businesses, and
Nice.
she's incredible. So that I'm really excited about that. It's the perfect like time for us, because I'm not saying everyone in the collective has shifted, but there has been a shift, like I said, for a lot of the healers, where we're like, okay, I'm ready to get back in the game. I'm ready to get back in. Put me in, coach.
Yep.
Put me in, coach.
I feel you. I really do feel that. And I think you've got a really powerful selection of women there that are kind of just going to bring this energy forward and hold this space for everyone else who's ready to kind of go through. Like, this is the kind of whole thing, you know, as much as I always try and avoid any kind of ego being brought into the way I say this, but we all have different roles in this journey. We all have different roles in this mission. And I think mine's always been one of them that's like, okay, I'm just going to jump in and see what happens. And then other people can kind of sink or swim after I know if it's survivable. And that's kind of the energy that some light workers have. And some of us are able to kind of go through it, face the darkness, face the storm, and then rise from it, and then create a pathway that's a little bit less treacherous and more light on it, because we've been through it and we have a little bit more kind of hindsight of that way is a bit rocky, go that way, and we can kind of hold that platform. And that's the way I see what we do in terms of what you guys are doing on Saturday, is transmuting and transforming your own experiences, what you guys have been through, and being able to shine that light to kind of hold space for that people to go through that with more ease and support and more love.
Yeah. I thought of the term way shower, a way shower. It's like you're showing a way. It's not the way, but this is a way that you can do healing in a way that is more fun and activating. Because this is not just healing, this is really for activations. So this is really for helping you level up. It's basically for helping to integrate the new aspects that we've all gotten recently. I think all of us practitioners, spiritual practitioners, I think we've all gotten some major upgrades. I've felt it I have felt it. All of our abilities have like, they're all like coming online extra strong. So this workshop is like, it really is focused on that type of energy, like activations, integrations, big releasing too, shaking off the final leftover gunk from this purge, shaking off whatever's left and just being like, all right, we're ready to start fresh, ready to start new chapter.
Nice. And that's awesome. I think that sounds amazing. Sounds really good.
Yeah.
This should come.
I know, right? Really
awesome.
Yeah, it's been really great just not listening or watching anyone's content and just seeing what's been coming through for me lately. I mean, if you haven't been expanding your gifts or trying new things, I just encourage anyone to try. Like my light language has changed, like my light codes, I'm getting new dialects, new light language, new movements,
Beautiful.
Really cool. I hope everyone that sees this just knows that like your abilities are expanding. They really are. So the ESP, I don't know if you've noticed, but like with people that you're connected with, it's like you're sending and receiving thoughts much easier. Like if someone's running late, I'll have like a knowing of like, oh, their car is having problems. And then they'll call me 2 hours later and be like, hey, sorry, my car was having problems. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. You're good. You're good.
Let me know earlier. No, it does feel that communication's eased up. And also like with the recent full moon energy, it felt like that lifted a lot of like unspoken truths and past energies and like resentments in relationships and family dynamics and emotions. And it's kind of like shifted out all these old paradigms and old energies and allowed either new things to blossom and new things to grow with new people, or new things to grow within old environments that needed new life. And I think that it's about embracing them changes and embracing the new frequencies that have been downloaded into us, instead of feeling the fear and resistance to the change.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Embracing it. Yep.
Yeah.
This has been such a great chat. I am so glad that we've been a while since we've connected, and I'm just so happy that we did.
Me too. I think it all works in the divine timing. I've been really busy planning the retreat, which is sold out now, but I've been manically trying to get that sorted. And like you say, I've been in my own little spiritual isolation, as I call it, and just kind of figuring out where I want to move forward, and connecting with this little starseed being, and just connecting with the future of what that looks like for me and my world. And I think sometimes we all need to do that a little bit.
Absolutely.
More
so right now than ever. Like, it's really, really important right now to protect yourself from being influenced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And just always know that your heart knows the truth. And if you're struggling with the human mind, just zoom out a little bit, zoom out, and allow yourself to look at things from an over perspective, like you're giving advice to someone else, and really allow yourself to see it with an unbiased, unrestricted perspective, and just to gain more truth on what it feels like in your heart space. And the heart space does not lie.
Absolutely. Heart wants what it wants, as they say.
Always. But no, that's the thing. There's some really massive things going on right now. So I think, like you said, protecting yourself and just like being on discernment of what aligns to yourself, and just giving ourselves a bit of a break to just go through whatever we need to go through at this time.
Yeah. Really allow yourself to trust in yourself and believe in yourself right now, because it does feel scary. That's to be expected. But it feels good when you're on the other side of it, and then you're like, wow, I knew that was going to happen, and then I did it, and then the proof, and then it happened, and it just feels so good. So just take that risk of trusting in you. I mean, betting on yourself is the best bet you can make.
Right. And that's the clarity that comes from that. Once we trust within self and we get the understanding and level ground after that, it's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, I hope everyone has an extremely empowered day.
I agree. Shine your light. Thanks for joining us, guys.